In recent years, the power sector has experienced many broad challenges related to electricity policy, enforcement, regulatory uncertainty, gas supply, transmission system constraint, and major power sector planning shortfalls. In 2022 alone, the country's national grid collapsed 8 times, and less than a week, it collapsed twice. Recurring grid collapses have had severe consequences, leading to nationwide blackouts and depriving many Nigerians of electricity supply. The outages negatively affect the daily lives of Nigerians, hindering their ability to work, study, and conduct business activities. With me on the show today is the Associate Professor and Director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. That's Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you so much, Dr. Amadi. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm going to ask you the question like a layman will first want to know. This collapse or grid collapse has become one too many. We have almost twice in a week, we went through the same thing, shutdown, blackout across the nation. Now, in your thoughts, what could be responsible for this? First, the minister said it was a fire. The second one, we didn't really get any information from TCN. At the end of the day, we came back. But what really do you think is happening with this development?
Well, anytime the grid collapses in that large measure, it has to do with TCN transmission lines. Basically, either the lines collapse, they snap. I mean, basically, think about electricity transmission as a network of wires, moving on across crisscrossing. And they need to all be on to carry electricity real time. So if either because of frailty, either because they are too old and needed to be removed, or either because of negligence, either of those points, something snaps and it's not picked up early and dealt with, and it sends stressors into the system, then you have total collapse. In which case, all the generators are disconnected and they probably be producing at zero. The last one, early in the week, was a production of from zero, and then we only have about 1.something megawatts from Delta power plant, maybe 0. something from one other power plant. So basically, it's zero. They all disconnect automatically. Then you need to track that problem, repair it, and then gradually peak load. So if you had 4,000 megawatts as we've been having on the average, then you get to zero. Maybe it takes you 3 hours to peak to 30 megawatts, 40. It keep ramping up, and gradually what you call black start. You restart, it's like the engine collapse, fails. You have to restart it again. We start peaking until maybe after 10 hours or thereabout, you might have a comprehensive return to normalcy. Basically, this is about weakness of the grid, either because of low investment, poor management system, lack of technology oversight in terms of coordination. You see, once you unbundle, like we've done now, people say unbundle. Okay, the notion of unbundling is to have efficiency by having distribution different, generation different, transmission different. But the downside of it is that it makes coordination much more high-tech. You have to be real-time able to coordinate everything. The wheel power from the generator, it transmits to the discos. So that interconnection, everything works well. So that's what we're lacking, because the grid, without the technical capability, we've not been able to retrofit our grid properly, and maybe the system operation is weak. And so either of these can trigger this collapse. And that's what we're witnessing. The fire, we didn't empty it, I didn't control it on time. Could be that the network went off, breakdown of basic negligence to effectively oversight picking up of load and transmission to the company.
Come to the fore here. Many would expect that, because I had this same discussion yesterday, I'd just like to get your perspective to why the private guys are not doing as much as expected. Or is government also having to keep to their part of this agreement, because everyone has a role to play in this. But many will expect that with all of the millions and billions of naira we hear on the distribution side and the generation side, more investment should be getting into the sector, even as government still continues to invest.
Well, that's what the theory says. And that's the projections and presumptions we started with. That the problem was private sector and public sector ownership, A to Z. But many of us argued, even as NEC chairman, I had to fall out with partners, the minister, and several other guys, bureaucrats in the industry. My view from my own close study of privatization in the world, and I did a book in 2009 on this, is that it doesn't cure this problem. What actually cures it more is competition. And you're not going to get to competition at this stage of scarcity. So you're going to do that with regulation, and it will take some strategic reform in both management. By the way, you discover that we've not been effective in managing TCM well. When we're there, we tried to force government to have a professional board. They didn't have that. They continue to micromanage for the ministry. I'm not sure how much TCM today is professionally managed. That's one aspect. Two, there are issues around unbundling transmission, TCM, to have the wire business, the transmission service provider different, and then the system operator, the independent system operator different. There are many models, but what is clear is that merely privatizing the network does not give you the efficiency you want. You have to back it up, good management strategy, change management strategy, effective regulation, and consistent and smart policy from government. Leadership at the level of the ministry, leadership at the level of the regulator, and of course, they have the capability, the finance, and the smartness to create a market that the customer is happy and the customer is paying their bills, and then that there's revenue to keep on improving and investing in the network. That's really the issue. So the whole ideology, the whole obsession, private sector, public sector, is not really the issue here. Yes, private sector comes with some efficiency. Maybe they can free government from their public financing and bring their private finance. But if you don't make the sector attractive, and if you don't regulate it properly, you will discover that private sector, even they come, they may not be able to even achieve the expected. So for me, it's now time to review, and I've said that several times, review the fundamental assumptions of this reform from 2000. The notion that the answer is privatization has failed. We've seen Egypt, many markets not privatized. I've seen markets privatized, have to redo it. In UK, they started with the same type of reform, and they have to keep on reviewing because they discovered that the reform didn't work. Then they retool it to work. And that's what we are now. We should proceed from where we are today to review all these things and come back with a model that works. And that's a model that is more competitive, a model that also enhances regulation, and not expect that private finance will necessarily make that kind of investment that will, give us more reliable and adequate and affordable electricity.
Interesting. Doc, let's take it to another level now and talk about the viability of this grid itself. This grid seems not to be enough. It doesn't have the capacity, yes, I think that's the rightful way to put that question, to take charge of 200 million persons. We see what is happening in neighboring countries around us. West African countries, Ghana, South Africa, doing pretty well than what we are doing. So now, if we are thinking out of the grid, thinking out of the box, what are the options we have?
Well, I think with the new Electricity Act, even though for me it's not a magic bullet, but with that act, states can now be more inventive and innovative. I see role for regional grids, and then we can have as well off-grid solutions, SPV set up by businesses and even state community. We should have a variety of energy, but synchronized to harmonize. So we're going to have the grid expanded. We need to get more generation to the system. more, expand our distribution network, expand transmission, because we can't rely off-grid and microgrids. But then we need to also use these modular systems of electricity generation to improve, especially rural electricity supply. So we need to be creative, expand the grid necessarily, of course. Then, of course, off-grids will come in, and then mini-grids will come in, and then we use leverage on new technologies to get into renewable energy and green energy. But the critical point for me now, in the short to medium term, is optimizing our gas supply, optimizing the turbines we have, optimizing distribution network as they are, enhancing their viability financially and functionally, and then thinking around how to make them much more,
Yeah, so like I said, even the Minister of Power, many believe that a lot of work is on that table for him to start up with discussions with key players from the generation to the transmission end to the distribution end. It is clear that everyone has a role to play in actualizing this dream of stable power supply.